Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving deep into some fascinating real estate trends this week, specifically zeroing in on the UAE and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, should be a good one. There's been so much happening, even just in the past couple months. It's definitely a dynamic region, and we've got fresh data and insights to really get a clear picture.
That's the goal here. We want to cut through the noise and give everyone a solid grasp of the key movements and policy changes that are shaping these markets.
Exactly. It's about understanding not just what's happening, but why it matters.
Right, so we're pulling this all from a bunch of recent market reports, updates, the real nitty-gritty stuff.
Yep, all the latest figures. We'll unpack what's going on in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, then we'll shift gears and take a look at the really interesting transformation happening in Saudi Arabia.
Perfect. Let's kick things off with Dubai. February was a wild month, right? They hit a record AED 41 billion in property sales. That's just massive.
It is, yeah. And it wasn't just a couple of huge deals skewing the numbers, we're talking almost 15,000 transactions.
Wow. So a really broad-based surge in activity.
Absolutely. When you compare it to January, it's a 17% jump. So a clear sign of that upward momentum we've been seeing. A lot of factors at play, but it really points to strong buyer confidence.
Makes sense. And it seems like off-plan properties are still a huge part of the Dubai market.
Oh yeah, definitely a major driver. In February, almost 60% of all the deals were for off-plan units.
So people are buying into those new developments, those projects that are still in the works?
Exactly. It really highlights the appetite for what's coming next in Dubai, shaping that future skyline. And another thing, average prices also hit a new record, AED 5,505 per square foot.
Okay, so demand is high, prices are climbing, and developers are responding with these new projects.
Right, and one that really stood out was Aldar's The Wilds. They launched 800 villas and sold out in one day. That was remarkable.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. It tells you something about what people are looking for, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, The Wild was designed with this big emphasis on nature, a real lifestyle focus. They've got beekeeping zones, they're using native plants, woodland trails. Clearly, there's a growing desire for these properties that offer more than just bricks and mortar.
Makes sense. People are seeking a certain quality of life, that connection to nature, especially in a bustling city like Dubai.
Exactly. And another project that caught my eye was Soul Properties, launching a big project in Jumeirah Village Triangle, $272 million, over 600 homes. Just shows you how active that off-plan market is.
Developers are really tapping into that enthusiasm. So much happening in Dubai. But what about Abu Dhabi?
So Abu Dhabi's a bit different, a bit more measured perhaps, but there's still a lot of positive movement there. In the first 2 months of 2025, they clocked AED 17.24 billion in real estate deals.
Okay, so not quite Dubai's pace, but still really solid.
Right, over 5,000 transactions. The interesting thing with Abu Dhabi is that they're expecting a big increase in housing supply this year, around 8,500 new homes, which is almost triple what they saw last year.
Wow, that's a huge jump. You'd think that would impact prices, right? More supply, maybe prices soften a bit?
That's the usual logic, yeah. But the expectation is that the strong demand in Abu Dhabi will kind of offset that increased supply. So while buyers will have more choices, a big drop in prices isn't really anticipated.
Okay, so the fundamentals are still strong enough to absorb that influx of new properties.
Right. It'll be interesting to watch how it all plays out, but there's definitely a lot of underlying strength in the Abu Dhabi market. And it's not just residential, the office sector is also super tight right now. Prime office occupancy hit 89% in March.
Wow, that's really high.
Yeah, it points to a healthy business environment, companies expanding, needing space. That has ripple effects throughout the whole economy.
For sure. All of this activity in both Dubai and Abu Dhabi must be creating some real opportunities, especially for folks in the real estate world.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with this volume of transactions, the constant flow of new projects, the demand for skilled real estate agents is through the roof. There was even a report about a firm in Dubai where 91 agents earned over $1 million in commissions last year.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, really shows you the potential in a market like this.
So let's switch gears and talk about Saudi Arabia. I know for a long time the kingdom faced some real challenges in its housing market. Homeownership rates were relatively low, lots of people on wait lists for housing programs.
Yeah, for about 2 decades, homeownership rates were kind of stuck between 40% and 50%. That's pretty low, especially compared to other developed nations.
Right, and there were other hurdles like difficulty getting mortgages and those really high down payment requirements. I think PwC had a report saying it was as high as 30%.
Yeah, 30% down is a huge barrier for most people, especially those trying to buy their first home. It really limited access for a lot of Saudis.
So what changed? It seems like the government really stepped in to address these issues.
They did. Starting around 2017, they began to implement some significant reforms. One of the most important was slashing the down payment requirement for first-time buyers. They brought it down to just 5%.
Wow, that's a game changer.
It was. Suddenly, homeownership became much more attainable for a large segment of the population.
And then there was the 2018 housing program. What was the goal there?
So the 2018 housing program was really ambitious. They wanted to overhaul the market, make it easier for people to get financing, build a lot more homes, and attract investment.
And it sounds like they made some real progress.
Oh, yeah, they've seen some impressive results. The Saudi real estate refinance company, for example, has been boosting liquidity in the mortgage market. They've got a loan portfolio of SAR 6.5 billion, which is making a big difference.
Okay, so more money flowing into mortgages, making it easier for people to buy.
Exactly. And then there's the Sakani program, which has helped 1.2 million Saudis buy homes. That's huge.
Over 1 million people. That's amazing progress.
And the overall homeownership rate has jumped up to 62% as of 2020, with a goal of hitting 70% by 2030.
So they're on track to meet that target. But it wasn't just about making it easier to buy. There were some pretty big policy changes too, right?
Right. They opened up the market to foreign ownership in certain zones, like economic cities and special development areas. That's huge for attracting international capital and expertise.
That makes a lot of sense.
And they've been developing these real estate investment funds, or REFs. They give people a way to invest in real estate without having to buy a whole property, so it's less risky, more accessible for a wider range of investors.
So they're really trying to diversify the market, bring in different types of investors.
Exactly. And for first-time buyers, they made it even more attractive with some tax breaks. First-timers don't have to pay the 15% VAT, and they only pay a 5% transaction tax.
So some real financial incentives to encourage homeownership.
Exactly. They're also working to reform the rental market. They've got this platform called AJAR that's bringing more transparency and structure to rental agreements.
So it sounds like it's not just about buying, but making the whole rental experience better for both landlords and tenants.
Right. And all of these changes, they're not just happening in isolation. They're all part of this bigger plan, this Vision 2030.
Right, that long-term vision for the kingdom's future. So real estate is a key piece of that puzzle.
Absolutely. It's about creating a sustainable, resilient market that attracts investment and contributes to the country's broader economic goals. And the government is really committed to this. They're constantly working on new initiatives to boost housing supply, make financing even easier, just keep that momentum going.
It's really fascinating to see how they're approaching this, but let's bring it back to the here and now, to those opportunities that are emerging from all of this. I know we've seen platforms like Stake doing some really interesting things, especially in Dubai.
Yeah, Stake's been making some waves. They recently funded a fix and flip opportunity in Victory Heights, which is a great example of how they're making these dynamic markets more accessible to investors.
Tell me more about Victory Heights. What makes it so special for those who aren't familiar?
So Victory Heights is this really exclusive villa community built around the Else Club golf course, and it's limited to just 961 villas. That scarcity in a city like Dubai that's constantly growing is a big part of what makes it so desirable.
Okay, so limited supply, high demand, that drives up value.
Exactly. And last year, the Dubai market performed really well overall. Average prices in Victory Heights were around AED 4.3 million for a 4-bedroom villa and AED 9.3 million for a 5-bedroom. So there's real potential for strong returns there.
And Stake is making it possible for more people to get in on the action.
That's the key. Traditionally, investing in a high-end community like Victory Heights would require massive upfront investment. But Stake allows people to invest with smaller amounts, essentially fractionalizing the investment. So it opens up these opportunities to a much wider audience.
Makes it a lot more accessible. And the fact that they fully funded that fix and flip opportunity so quickly just shows how much demand there is for these kinds of investment options in prime Dubai real estate.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. It really demonstrates how technology can unlock access and create new possibilities for investors.
Definitely. So to sum it all up, we've got these really dynamic markets in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, driven by record sales, ongoing development, and that consistent, strong demand.
And we've got Saudi Arabia undergoing this massive transformation in its real estate sector, with the government really pushing to expand homeownership and attract investment, both from within the kingdom and internationally.
And through it all, we're seeing innovative platforms like Stake emerging, giving people new ways to tap into these opportunities.
It's a lot to take in, but hopefully this deep dive has provided a good overview of what's happening and what it all means.
It really is a fascinating time for real estate in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. As these markets continue to evolve, it's worth keeping an eye on where things go next, what new opportunities might arrive, and how you might want to engage with this dynamic landscape. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.